How's it going, everyone? Schaefer here, and this time I'm bringing you my top 10 games of 2023. And what a year it's been. Before we begin though, just a couple of things, or a few things. Firstly, this is based solely on my opinion. Your opinions may differ and your experiences may be different, and that's completely okay. Secondly, this list will only contain games released in 2023. That may also include expansions. I will only include, lastly, games I have played myself. And that's it. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Starting this top 10 list off is Everspace 2. Everspace 2 was an absolute blast to play. It's a arcade space shooter. The combat was top notch. It was filled with different types of ships and equipment so that you could truly play whichever way that you wanted to play. It also had some great RPG elements. The story was interesting, had some really great characters, and it was all held together in stunning visuals. It just looked fantastic. If you're a arcade space shooter or even a space fan at all, I highly recommend Everspace 2. Again, the outliers first, and then we get the big one. At number 9, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I haven't played a Zelda game in a very long time before Tears of the Kingdom, but I decided to jump in on a whim and didn't regret my decision. It makes me excited to see what any future Zelda games are going to look like, because it was a lot of fun to play. I loved the huge open world, the building mechanics was just hilarious, fun, and engaging. I mean, some of the things that you could create was just out of this world. I really enjoyed doing that. The combat was fun, it had an interesting storyline, and overall it was just super enjoyable. I found myself gearing up, exploring the world, postponing the end game, simply because I just wanted to get the majority of the content done before I finished it, which is saying something in my opinion. There is that. Oh yeah, I should have increased my battery, shouldn't I? I actually do have some, don't I? So enough to... Swinging at number 8, Dead Island 2. Now, I loved the first Dead Island, so I was super excited for the second, and honestly, I'm happy to say I wasn't disappointed. It was basically just Dead Island with more and better, and that's all there really is to say about it, and I think that's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that. The combat felt great, the visuals popped, and the gore mechanic was just insane. It's like nothing I'd ever seen before. Each of the unique characters, the unique playable characters, were expertly voice acted, they all had their own quirks, and honestly made me just want to play the game again multiple times with different characters, just to get to know them and get to play them. Which, I mean, the story would have been exactly the same, but because the characters are so interesting, that made me want to play them. Right here. Okay.
How's it going?
Number 7, the Teal Mask and Indigo Disc expansions for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, I really enjoyed the first game, the base game. I played it multiple times, including one of them which is on my channel. But these expansions just added so much more to that game. They gave you some great new places to visit, some really interesting characters and the storylines that came with them, fun and interesting and challenging new mechanics, and obviously a boatload of new Pokemon to catch. I really look forward to basically what comes next with the Pokemon games. If these two expansions are anything to go by, I highly recommend them if you played the base game, and they're definitely worth a look. Not the droid you were looking for. Number 6, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor is a great continuation of Jedi Fallen Order. It adds so much more, it does more, and it looks great doing it. I had a really good time seeing the character growth between the games and how they kind of all came in and fit together in the new one. It was a delight to see the new customization options that were put in, the mini games, the additional side stuff that you could have done. The world exploration was fun and interesting and definitely had me engaged along the way. And let's be honest, the highlight of the game was the droids, because they were on a different level entirely. There you go. That's cool. Any other colours? No. What about actual saber colours? What's this one look like? Light blush. Well, that's a nice blue though. So starting my top 5 is Resident Evil 4 Remake and the expansion Separate Ways. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, always have been. And Resident Evil 4 Remake didn't disappoint. It's a great remake. The visuals, the gameplay, atmosphere, the characters all felt spot on. And I didn't have anything bad to say about it. I just thoroughly enjoyed my experience. The Separate Ways expansion was phenomenal. I highly recommend you picking it up and playing it if you haven't, especially if you played the RA4 remake. It's well worth your time. It's 10, 15 hours long, something like that, but it's a lot of fun and just adds more of the base game, just more Resident Evil 4 remake, and I think that's fantastic. At number 4, we have Starfield. I had really high hopes for Bethesda's newest installment, and for the most part, I really wasn't disappointed. It's a great game. I played it over or around 100 hours, and thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It was by far Bethesda's most bug-free experience, and that's kind of saying something, considering its other titles. And while the main story wasn't anything groundbreaking, the side quests, the additional content, the faction storylines more than made up for it with hours of enjoyable plots, characters, stories, and adventures. I just overall felt like a really great game, and I had a blast with playing Starfield. I highly recommend it if you're into RPGs, and certainly if you're into Bethesda's games. Maidenless at 3, Lords of the Fallen. It would be easy to talk Lords of the Fallen up as just another standard Souls-like, but I honestly felt like it did enough different. It did more than that for me. Its dual worlds mechanic and how it changed the traversal of the world, the enemies that you encountered, not to mention it introduced new mechanics along the way, honestly sets it aside from just a standard Souls-like game. It had interesting bosses, the characters, the visuals looked great, especially when you consider the dual worlds mechanic and how visually different those two worlds looked. I had a blast with it, and if you're into Souls games, I highly recommend it. Godan is still awaiting you. System Shock Remake slides in at number 2. Now, I never got to play the first game, but I heard nothing but good things about System Shock, and so I was really excited to play the remake, and honestly, it came through. It was a solid first-person adventure game that I highly recommend. It had level design and story progression which encouraged exploration, experimentation. It had very clever use of audio visual cues that kind of made you think and have to discover the story and where to go next. And it was very unique. It's something I haven't experienced in a very long time, or as a matter of fact, it's difficult to pull into memory the last time I did experience something similar. The visuals are amazing, the pixel art looks great, the gameplay was a lot of fun, and the chess game was kind of hard to beat, but definitely worth it, so I recommend it if you pick it up. Before I unveil my number 1 game of 2023, I'd like to give out a few honourable mentions. First of all, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader by Alcat. Alcat do some great CRPGs, and Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is just another step in the right direction for that team, and it's phenomenal. It's a great game. The reason it's not officially listed is because I am nowhere near to finishing it. Nowhere near. However, I did want to mention it because the lore, the gameplay, the visuals are all great. And I love CRPGs. With Baldur's Gate 3 doing so well this year, I want to highlight other CRPG games, and Rogue Trader is definitely one that you should keep an eye on. If you're into CRPGs or if you're into the Warhammer universe, I highly recommend picking it up. Sadly, the game does have limited voice acting, which is a shame. The voice acting that's there is absolutely amazing, so I'd definitely like to see more of it, but overall, definitely worth a look. Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. I don't think anybody disagrees that Cyberpunk released in not the best state, and 2.0 that released this year is definitely how it should have released. And it's great, everything I experienced in 2.0 was phenomenal so far. I had a really good time with it, really liked being back with the game. However, the reason I wanted to play it mainly was because of Phantom Liberty. And the reason it's not on this list is because I haven't actually been able to play the Phantom Liberty part of the game yet, because I have been plagued with an ongoing series of crashes which stop me from playing the game for more than 10 minutes basically. It's very frustrating. I am trying to work on it. Hopefully I can get it fixed and return to it. However, what I have seen and what I have seen and what I have played of 2.0 and beyond, it's definitely worth picking it up, playing it, so I wanted to mention it. The final game I'd like to mention here is Blasphemous 2, and actually Blasphemous 1 as well. So this game, along with its first one, were recommended to me a few times, so I decided to finally try them, and I'm glad that I did. They're both great games. They're well thought out Metroidvania style adventure games, and they just have some great visuals, some great combat. The animations and the pixel art looks just superb. The story is interesting. There are a couple of endings that you can achieve depending on how you progress through the game and your choices along the way. And Blasphemous 2, especially the traversal through the world and the options that you get, pretty much made me 100% the map, which is something I don't normally do in these style of games. But I definitely enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it, and I would definitely recommend it. So now for the number one spot of this list, and not just because of a certain tadpole I might add, is Baldur's Gate 3. So there's no doubt, a lot of people probably have this at their number one spot. This game was a delight to play from start to finish. I'm a huge fan of CRPGs, I mentioned that before, and Larian Studios nailed it. It's really, really good. Everything from the visuals, the voice acting, the characters, to the sheer amount of choices you had, the different ways you could approach situations. Everything kind of just slotted in and felt right in BG3, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. I'm tempted to go back at some point soon to maybe do like a completely evil playthrough. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see how that goes. And honestly, I wanted to put it on number one spot because I was just thrilled to see a CRPG getting so much positive attention, because I love CRPGs. And that's why I mentioned Warhammer. I just think this is a great game to play. If you haven't played it, which you probably have, definitely play it. It's just a fantastic game, and I think undoubtedly deserves its Game of the Year award and various other awards that's received throughout the year.
Wow.
And that's it. That's my list. I think it's been a great year for games. It's been an exhausting year for games, just because there's been so many of them. I'm still playing some of them now, so no idea when I'll finish some of these, but looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to what's in 2024. I think there's going to be some great games coming out there as well. And just to close off, I'd like to wish you all the best in the year to come. Thank you all for the support to me since I started YouTube this year. And until next time, bye-bye.